Hello. We'd like to invite you to sit back and relax and listen to a special story by Mrs. Hook. It's not a real story, it's just fiction. The title of it is The Devil's Garage Sale. It helps to expose some of the tricks of the adversary, the devil, and tells us about some of his tools. You listen real closely now. Here's Mrs. Hook.
It was a warm, sunny day in April, and garage sale fever was just beginning to take the turn. Brandon held out a newspaper and began to search for the closest treasure spot. We both love our guilt-free shopping sprees. After all, garage sales are the answer for bargain hunters. We found a 5-family feature and 3 or 4 others close by. With newspaper in hand, we began our underground shopper spree with delight. In fact, our delight reminded me of a second-grade class on their way to a day at the zoo. We got in the car and I said, "You watch the numbers on the right and I'll get the left." And we were on our way. We're getting close. There is 623, 647. Here we are. 666 Infernal Road. Brenda spotted it. Already, the address sounded suspicious to me. 666 Infernal Road? This first stop of the day was not the storybook home sweet home kind of place, with a white picket fence and daffodils all in a row. A cyclone fence enclosed the yard, and lots of mangy dogs snuggled against it. There were a couple of old cars up on blocks. The unmowed grass was invaded by weeds and dandelions. I'm sure there was a note in the mailbox from the neighbors to shape up or sell out. We walked past some rabbit cages, and a black cat curled her tail against my legs. Yuck. The sun wasn't shining here. In fact, the clouds didn't even part over this place. Looks like a dumping ground for some bewitching bargains, Brenda said. Yeah, but beware of what's sitting in the garage, I warned in a whisper. A wrinkled, leather-skinned old man sat in the middle of the dingy garage. He rested on an antique church pew. His whiskered mouth held a half-smoked cigar. With a crafty look in his eye, he invited us in to browse. And so we stepped in. I tried to identify the smell in the air. It was an unclean smell. I hoped the basement-like dampness would be accompanied by basement prices. Cheap, I mean. Flies swarmed the place. The annoying kind that won't respond to a swat. Just under the gap, there was a cage of snakes next to the scroungy old fellow. He made a jeering remark, which was interrupted by a cigarette cough. I caught Brenda's eye, and we went on to separate the good, the bad, and the ugly. The place was crammed with bargain magic. The stock had been the highest breed in its original selling days. A few articles were in top condition. Everything had a price tag on it. The old man assured us that everything was in excellent working condition. I spotted a beer can collection. It'll raise your spirit, the old man smirked. Ha, I thought to myself, I can tell you a lot of things that will do to lower your spirits, too. There was pewter cookery, for those with an appetite for pleasure, was his hot-selling pitch. We saw lots of weapons. Sheathed, jeweled-handled swords, stacks of worn-out books. The written word is a powerful influence on folks, he cackled. He was going to say more, but his cough began to nag at him again. There were charred Bibles, and apparently had been through a fire. Who would ever want to burn the Bible? I thought to myself. That's strange. Mixed in with the Bible were a large selection of pornography. Dirty old man, I whispered under my breath. There were gold-plated statues placed here and there, the kind people prayed to. Brenda found something she liked, a ceramic apple, with a bite out of it. I wanted to get a closer look at the shelf behind the man, but didn't dare get any nearer. Hanging from the ceiling board was a skull and crossbones, which cast a chill over the place. That's the sign for death, and maybe that was the unusual smell I detected. Dozens of unearthly potted plants lined one wall. What are these called? I asked. Roots of bitterness. An impish grin formed on his face. Roots of bitterness? I thought to myself. I've never heard of culturing a house plant with that name. But I do know of a lot of people who have cultured bitterness roots in their heart. Unforgiveness is the seed that grows bitterness. How unusual for this old man to have all of these plants in here. Need any tools? He mumbled. These tools will last till doomsday. I'm a devil for fixing things. You really fix things, do you? I nervously commented. My eyes scanned stacks of mind-bending games, Ouija boards, well-worn card decks, and lots of handcrafted items. I spotted a black marble wheel of fortune. You gamble in the game of life? He jibed. No, for heaven's sake, I said firmly. The cage snake hissed at that. I wanted to say out loud, Brenda, this place is not the answer to our shopping woes. But I just motioned to her. Come on, let's go. As we started down the driveway to the car, I noticed the old man's garden plot. There was a pitchfork thrust into it. I looked at Brenda curiously. I wonder what he cultivates with that. Wait a minute. Cultivates? Pitchfork? A pitchfork isn't a gardening tool. A pitchfork is used to bale hay. The Bible talks about hay in 1 Corinthians 3:12, and now I was beginning to put two and two together. The bad things in a person's life are compared to hay, wood, and stubble. The good works are compared to gold, silver, and precious stones. At the judgment, God's word is going to put our works to a test. His word is like a fire which will burn up the hay, but it will only refine and purify those with golden works. Now I was beginning to figure this place out, and who's sponsoring this garage sale. That's why artists always draw pictures of the devil with a pitchfork. He's digging for the people with the bad works, which are like hay, worthless hay. Brenda, I said, before we leave, let's walk around outside and look over all this junk. I think we've stumbled into something we're never going to forget. Could it really be that these were the devil's tools on display for sale? There were piles and piles of rusty tools. Each pile was marked with a scribbled sign identifying the items. Some of them were ages and ages old, used over and over again, but still in excellent working condition, just like he'd said. And people were still buying his merchandise. I pointed. Look at this pile. This is absolutely incredible. This pile of tools is called negotiating chisels. Sure, the devil loves to negotiate and bargain with people. He does it by dickering with the mind. He haggles and disputes one's values and proper judgment. No wonder this tool is like a chisel. Chisels carve and gouge slowly. Little by little, the master negotiator chisels and cuts a person off from God's blessings. I'm glad I know that now, because I'll be more on the alert when he tries to bargain and reason with my mind. I'll never forget. negotiating chisel. There were psychological ploys everywhere to make you believe you were getting a deal, but believe me, there was not one bargain there. Anything purchased would be a mistake. You pay with your soul. In the far back of the yard were dozens of huge barrels. I walked over to look down inside. Towels? Wet towels? The barrels were stuffed with wet, ragged towels. Was that the old man's laundry? Oh, I know what this is. Have you ever heard anyone say, "Don't throw in the towel"? That means
Part 1.